I'm Claire Dooley. You're watching CHG TV, and this is the Geoengineering Report, where we identify the threat in the skies. It's fact, not fiction, that microscopic particles in the air are quietly impacting ecosystems and public health. While some are quick to blame a shifting climate for new health issues, could these nanoparticles be playing a role in making things worse? Sometimes these engineered substances enter our bodies, and the damage they cause is difficult to detect and even harder to reverse. Our expert Dane details the health implications of ongoing nanoparticle exposure in our atmosphere.
So Dane, all these pictures that CHGTV are being sent from around the world of the chemtrails, and they're quite unbelievable, some of these pictures. Should they be sending those to the legislators and demanding that, where, because it's not really helpful sending them to us, even though it's interesting and we understand it. Where should they be sending them? It's like people telling me the vaccine injury story. That's not helpful, but when they tell the world it via me, then it works. So what can they do with all these pictures?
You're correct, yes. And those pictures should be going to a long list of recipients. Again, farm groups, ag groups, fisheries, industries. The list is really endless. And put credible data with that. Don't just run out in the street, point at the sky, and start ranting. We're playing chess. We need to play effectively and efficiently if we're to have any chance of prevailing here. So again, accompany that with credible data from a credible source, from your own home computer, from anyone's own home computer. They can share links to the dimming or other reports on geoengineeringwatch.org that cover everything from the engineered snowstorms when it's snowing in New Orleans and Florida while it's raining in the Arctic, Iceland, Greenland, Siberia. Obviously something's wrong. When we have fires like Lahaina, like the Palisades fire, those were so incredibly unnatural and so incredibly inseparable from climate engineering operations. How is this not all-out weather, chemical, and biological warfare? That's exactly what it is. Source of ignition on the fires, for example, that's a separate subject. That can be 1,000 different sources of ignition. What's setting the template for these fires to burn with such ferocity? And they're coming back, by the way. It's already happening in other parts of the world right now. Siberia's on fire. It was on fire in late winter, early spring. Since when does Siberia burn in winter? Any time of year. So again, climate engineering, there's many levels to this. There's many agendas and objectives. It's not just a simple this or that. But if people learn the basics, share credible data, send those links everywhere, send those flaming arrows out everywhere, we could cause a landslide of awareness. We could alter this equation. Not saying our problems are over, but we would have taken a quantum leap in the right direction.
Okay, we've got a map that shows cities where children are told to limit going outside. What is that about? Limit going outside. The world's gone mad if that's the situation.
Our air is so filthy. Even last night, this morning, the silvery white skies, people think it's a clear day. No, it's not. The atmosphere is absolutely laden with these toxic nanoparticles that make the sky silvery white. You can see a halo around the sun. There's nothing natural about any of this. And we have the criminal so-called science community pretending that nothing's going on, just like they pretend, quote, injections are safe and effective when they're anything but. Bottom line is people need to use their sense of reason. Stop pretending it's going to go away. Stop pretending someone else is going to move the ball up the field. It's up to us. We're the ones we've been waiting for. And again, on these hazy days, take the brightest light you can find. If you live, it can go somewhere where there's no light pollution, where it's dark. Aim the brightest light you can find up at the sky. Look straight up through that beam. And you have to see it to believe it. It looks like you're in a blizzard. You can't see that during the daytime, but that's why those warnings are in place, Polly, because we're sucking up nanoparticles that are incredibly bioavailable and bioaccumulative. They're easily absorbed, almost impossible to get rid of. And we're not talking about just any element. Again, aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese, polymer fibers, graphene, surfactants, all of which are toxic in and of themselves. And when you start combining these elements, we don't even know the total toxicity. We do know in the case of mercury and aluminum, based on peer-reviewed study, those two elements, when combined in the body, can increase overall toxicity by as much as 10,000%. That's 100 times worse. And isn't it interesting that those two elements were also combined in thimerosal? Isn't that interesting? Do those in power not know this? Of course they know. So again, there's no place to hide. Every breath we take is toxic. It's contaminating everything, being absorbed in everything. If it doesn't stop, we're done in the very, very near term. And I'm not saying we don't have other problems. People misunderstand me blaming everything on climate engineering. No, I'm not. I'm saying if this is the biggest hole in the bottom of the boat, we need to deal with this first. Then we need to deal with the rest of the human race's trashing of the planet on which our lives depend. But we have to start with priorities, and this is the priority issue.
We love hearing from our viewers at CHGTV, so please reach out to us with any questions, any comments, or if there's anybody in this field that you would like to hear more from, please let us know, plug some experts and we'll try to get them on. Please reach out to us at goodmorning@CHGTV. Thanks so much for watching the Geoengineering Report. We'll see you next time on CHGTV.
I began to test for some of the primary elements named in climate engineering solar radiation management patents, starting with aluminum, barium, and strontium. When my test came back from the state certified lab, to my dismay, these elements indeed were present in significant amounts, and subsequent tests showed higher and higher and higher amounts, continuing to escalate until one test was as high as 3,450 parts per billion of aluminum. This is highly toxic rain. I knew my life would never be the same because I can't look the other way. It's completely intolerable for me to live under toxic skies. And what about the trees? What about the bats, the bears, the birds, the bees? They have no voice except for us. I began to try to bring this issue to light from that moment on. Initially, few would listen, few would look at the data. But as time went on, and as more and more people woke up along the way and realized the significance of attempting to play God with the weather and engineer Earth's life support systems, more individuals from different arenas joined the effort to try to sound the alarm.
I want to tell you that we're in very great danger from the pollution that's coming down over us. And we've been led astray by the military-industrial complex. And they're responsible for the cloud creation and weather manipulation programs.
I sacrificed 4 years of my life defending the people of my country just to come home and find there are greater threats here domestically.
There's something going on. I don't know who it is or why they're doing it. All I can testify is it's not natural and it's not normal.
Now, the aluminum content of rain should be 0.
And there's a lot of argument that aluminum is very common to be found, but aluminum is only common in a bonded form. It's not common in a free form, and we're finding high rates of free aluminum.
Because you can spread so many small little particles through the environment, it dramatically increases the surface area that's in that environment because there's so many of them. When you look up at the sun and you see a white haze, that is aluminum floating in the air right now, and it's coming from the aircraft.
Solar radiation management, SRM, to block the sun. That's the stated purpose. The consequences don't seem to be considered with these programs, but that is the stated purpose on almost all UN and global governance documents for these programs.
And in the past 5 years, I have seen the number of patients with Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative diseases tremendously increase, almost quadruple.
United States Code says you cannot experiment on the American public, and if you do, you got to report it to Congress within 30 days. Where's the proof it did that?
But is also to get the media to start reporting on this.
So all of us have a consequence that we may not be aware of. And it is important for all of us to join together and to put a stop to these programs and to hold public discussions on them for as much as possible. And I want all of you to know that it's important that we realize that this is not normal and natural, that these are programs, experimental programs that are being conducted at this time, and we all have to stand up and say no.
This tank can be used for disseminating all types of agents. Anti-crop spray from aircraft using the Aero X2A has proved very effective in field trials. For larger planes, the Air Force has perfected spray equipment. This B-17 has several spraying nozzles and carries the tank in the bomb bay.
I'm Charles Jones, Brigadier General, U.S. Air Force retired. In the years 1953 through 1962, I was stationed in Germany. Then we moved to England in 1959 while assigned to the 42nd Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron with dual missions of electronic countermeasures and weather reconnaissance. We also had the responsibility of reporting jet engine contrails throughout our area of responsibility in Europe, North Africa, the Mediterranean, and Eastern Atlantic. We were responsible for pinpointing the exact altitudes of all jet engine contrails noted within the flying area of responsibility in both the weather and ECM aircraft missions. We became experts on jet engine aircraft contrails and all of their characteristics. Much different from the white aircraft spray trails that consist of scientifically verifiable straying of aluminum particles and other toxic heavy metals, polymers, and chemical components. These are the long white spray trails that linger and slowly expand into light cloud cover that soon cover entire areas with an overcast, very light cloud cover. We're never going to get to the bottom of climate change until everything is laid on the table about geoengineering and the disasters that it can and is causing.